Hey everyone, welcome to our final part of chapter 3. Looks like we'll be doing some rearranging. So our focus is really now trying to understand or calculate interest rates and the waiting time when we're regarding the time value money equations. And we'll also briefly discuss, or at least show you, what it looks like to be using a spreadsheet to apply these equations. But of course, more on that in our calculation videos. So referring to rearranging, well, if we have one equation and we have four variables, we can simply rearrange these variables and solve for the unknown. Now, we're already familiar with the future value and the present value, but now we can rearrange our formulas so we can solve for the unknown rate, perhaps interest rate, maybe growth rate, maybe it's called the discount rate, really depending on which way you look at it. And also we can solve for n, so we can actually solve for the number of periods or number of years that it might need to wait in order for our investment to mature to get to a certain amount that we want to invest for. In terms of applications of time value money, again, just a more general view. And we'll look at some examples in just a moment. But for instance, maybe we want to know how much money we need to put aside for retirement. We've also discussed the future value of an asset. So again, investment options. One thing we have not discussed yet is how much interest are we actually paying? So what is that cost of a loan? Is it worth to borrow? We want to find that out. We also want to know investment options in terms of growth rates. Is it a good investment? What exactly is our growth rate? And that's when we're solving for R. And when we're solving for N, now we're actually going to figure out not only how much we want to save for a financial goal, but how long will it take? How many periods will it take? So those are some examples of how this can be valuable. Here's an example specifically in regards to solving for the interest rate. Okay, so basically we want to figure out what is the cost of borrowing, right? We've already discussed when we've been given the interest rate, but in this case now we're going to try and solve for it. And again, really it's just a matter of rearranging the equation. But we also like to look at a timeline. So go ahead, write a nice timeline, and see if you can calculate or at least indicate what the present value is, what's the future value, how many years, what is n, and what are we solving for. Okay. Excellent work if this is the timeline you illustrated. Okay, so again, we see our variables here. And really, in this case, we're just trying to solve for the actual interest rate. So we're borrowing $5,000. We know we have to pay it back in 5 years at a rate of, or at $7,000 just over. So we want to know what interest rate are we paying that at. Now, of course, we have our three methods. And again, if we rearrange our equation, we can use the mathematical method here, or equation method. We can also, now knowing our time value keys in our financial calculator, we can solve for the rate. But here, using our spreadsheet, we can recognize that Excel actually has a rate formula. And when we punch in our rate formula, we simply are going to input similar to the financial calculator. First is our number of periods, which is 5. There are no payments being made, okay, so we're only going to make one single payment at the end, a lump sum payment of the 7,000. Our present value is 5,000. That's the current value, and we know we have to pay back our future value in 5 years. Again, notice how the future value in this case is negative, okay, and the present value is positive. Again, as long as one of them is negative, that's fine. It really depends on which one you prefer to use. Type 0 in this case, it will be 0. It's either 0 or 1, but usually we'll just stick to 0 for now, okay? And again, our rate now we can solve for, that should give us 7%. So that's an example of solving for the rate. Next is the waiting period. So in this case, now we're trying to solve for the amount of periods. So again, same idea, just rearranging the formula, rearranging the equation. Now in this case, we still have what's known here as the present value, okay? And we understand in this case we want to be a millionaire. So our future value, well, is $1 million. So that future value is 1 million. We recognize in this case we're given a 15% growth rate, right? So it looks like we can grow our asset, our investment at 15% each year, and we're assuming that's going to be fixed. So we want to figure out, okay, based on that information, how many periods, what is our waiting period in order to become a millionaire? It's a good question to ask. So again, we draw our timeline, and I'm sure you've all written this beautifully, same idea. And this is a good understanding of what we're trying to solve for. So when we look at it in terms of our three methods, now if you want to use some natural logs, go for it. But this is not a math class, so not to worry. We won't be expected to calculate that. Time value money. Now we're solving for n, and we're going to input the other. And of course, we just push our compute n, and we should get the same value. So in other words, 40 periods is our answer. Okay, so, and reminder, in the spreadsheet or Excel, we can use the NPR, which is the number of periods. So same idea. Again, we have a negative present value and a positive future value. So depending on how you look at it, maybe you want to invest that 3,000 and you expect a payout of 1 million. So hence the positive and the negative. So those are some examples of what we can do in terms of solving for the interest rate and the number of periods. We've also taken a look at how we can apply it in a spreadsheet. Again, a reminder of what these variables look like and what they refer to, whether you're using the time value keys in your financial calculator or your Excel spreadsheet. And that's really it for this video. Again, we've calculated the interest rates and the waiting time, and we've applied the time value money equation using spreadsheet formulas. Thanks for watching, and happy financing.